This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Get access to 2,400 documentaries and nonfiction titles free for 1 month by following the link in the description.
Like many of you out there, I spent a lot of my time as a kid playing with Legos. And perhaps unsurprisingly, I spent a lot of time building and designing Lego cities. When I was a kid, when I could afford a Lego set or got one for Christmas, I would often go buy a Lego City themed Lego set. Now that I'm an adult, when I go and look at Lego sets, I often wonder, what kind of a city could you build with Lego City sets? Would they be any good? Would they be good urbanism? So stick with me as I get a little bit nerdy and review Lego City sets as a city planner. Okay, let's get started here on shop.lego.com. I'm gonna find the theme City, and we're gonna look at the Lego City sets. And it says here that there are 95 results for Lego City sets. So where do we begin? I want to start at the bottom, quite literally, at the base plate level. Here are your standard road base plates, but I actually wanted to start this discussion by looking back at base plates from the past. Now, it used to be that any Lego set of any reasonable size came with a base plate. I mean, look at these Lego sets from the late 70s through about 1990. You could build out a fully fledged road network with only a few sets. I mean, look at the base plate on this one. This was my first set ever. It had a custom pit row for the race cars. But I want to focus on one aspect of base plates, the width of the road itself. A standard Lego base plate is 32 studs by 32 studs, but the amount of space the road takes up has changed over time. Let's start at the beginning, and no, I'm not going to talk about these weird things from 1970. The first true road base plates were released in 1978, and the road was about 14 studs wide with 9 studs on each side of the road. Each lane was 7 studs wide, though the lane markings reduced that a bit. This was a great size for vehicles 4 studs wide, as all were at the time. I'm not sure about this crosswalk to nowhere, though. When I was a kid, the roadway was 18 studs, which left 7 studs on each side of the road. The roadway did widen compared to 1978, but you gained what was essentially a bike lane on either side. It seemed like a reasonable trade-off for the sake of transportation options for Lego minifigs. Roads changed again in 2005, and not for the better. Roads got wider. Lego released new base plates with 20 stud wide roads and no bike lanes, leaving only 6 studs on each side for sidewalks or buildings. I do appreciate the nod to storm sewer systems here, though. These are the Lego base plates we use now. Why did Lego streets get wider? Well, you have to look at the vehicles. Check out this car released in 1985. It's 4 studs wide. The name of this set is, and I'm not joking, Family Car. I suppose this is an accurate name if someone expects this man to transport families of mice or something, but it obviously highlights how hilariously small these cars are. But let's look at some cars from the 2019 Lego City sets. Here, let's look at this one, High Speed Chase. They are at least 6 studs wide. Look at this police car. And the kicker is that they don't carry any more passengers than the family car from the 80s. Lego cars are generally designed for 1 passenger, which seems sort of strange when we drive around with cars meant for 4 or more people. This is of course because Lego people are bizarrely shaped. Can you imagine what a real looking Lego human would look like? God, that's horrifying. Lego people are far wider than humans, so you can't really fit more than 1 in a car and keep the scale reasonable. But it's also sort of appropriate, as most cars on our roadway today only have 1 person in them. In planning, they're called single-occupant vehicles. This is why many cities promote carpooling, as it's much more efficient than allocating nearly 100 square feet and 2 tons of vehicle for each person. Maybe we could learn from Lego people and switch to smaller cars meant for only 1 person, something like a smart car. Unfortunately, at least in the US, our love affair with the SUV is stronger than ever, despite no need for a car of that shape or size. Unfortunately, it seems like Lego streets and vehicles have taken inspiration from the real world. Streets and cars are larger and wider now in Lego and in real life. So kudos to Lego for the realism, I guess, but this is a case where I'd want more fantasy than reality for my toys. Okay, I think we've covered base plates pretty extensively, so let's move on. If you scroll through the Lego City sets, you quickly come to the conclusion that the Lego City is incredibly dangerous, but at the same time, you're never more than a few steps away from emergency personnel. Did your barbecue get out of control? Don't worry, in Lego City, dispatch will send out a perfect backyard barbecue-sized fire truck for your rescue. After that fire and ensuing rescue ruined your lunch, you decide to just give up and grab a burger at the local fast food joint. But bad luck follows you, and soon enough, the giant burger sign outside the restaurant is on fire. Luckily, a slightly larger fire truck shows up to save the day. Unable to get a burger in the midst of this disaster, you decide to get some fine dining downtown. And you can probably guess what happens next. The LEGO website lists 34 police, fire, ambulance, or rescue sets for sale in 2019. That's nearly half of all the sets for sale in the theme. Now, of course, they could do this because kids love disasters and they love to save the day. It's fun to catch the criminal or put out the fire or fly the rescue helicopter. My question as a city planner is, how does LEGO City pay for all of these services? Cities get revenue from a few basic sources, including transfers from state and federal governments, property taxes, local sales taxes, and fees. If we look again at LEGO City here, we can see there isn't a whole lot of property taxes to support all these services. The best in the lineup, in my opinion, here is Capital City, though there is no capital in sight. It's probably a good thing, as that government building wouldn't be paying property taxes. This set has a hotel. It's very cool that LEGO City can use to charge guests local lodging taxes. The bad news is that this costs $7,425 a night due to the large lodging tax needed to pay for all those fire and police personnel. There are also other buildings here that are pretty great. Let's see, there's a museum right here, which isn't great because here in the United States, nonprofits don't pay property taxes, so that's unfortunate. The city could collect, let's see here, some sales taxes from the hot dog and newsstand, as well as this ice cream truck, and maybe some fees from the electric vehicle charging. So there are some sources of revenue here in this set, which makes it kind of above and beyond what we see in the LEGO City theme, in my opinion. And on the bright side, there are no police and fire personnel. The obscene number of fires and criminals in LEGO City may have something to do with another strange feature of the city. There's absolutely nowhere to live. Well, I shouldn't say that. There is a shack owned by, you guessed it, a shady character or criminal. I have a couple theories about the lack of housing in LEGO City. First, I think that there used to be housing in LEGO City, but it all burned down. Without homes, many turned to crime to fund their personal rebuilding, as nobody had insurance. I mean, have you ever seen a LEGO insurance agency set? The newly homeless who didn't turn to crime overreacted and demanded obsessive levels of police and fire service. And that's how you get today's LEGO City. I also think that the lack of housing could be corporate LEGO holding a mirror to our real-life housing crises and suggesting that this apocalyptic hellscape is what will happen if we don't get serious about providing affordable housing in our cities. Either way, the lack of house LEGO sets is kind of sad, especially when you look back at some of these extremely charming houses they used to sell. I mean, how cute are these? They're just delightful, and they have much more character than some of the 2019 sets. Now, to be fair to LEGO, you can walk into a LEGO store and buy house sets. They just aren't sold in the LEGO City theme. So let's leave Disaster City entirely and move to a different place, Heartlake City, home of LEGO Friends. Now you'll notice a few things right away. The sirens have stopped. There are no emergency vehicles in Heartlake City, unless you count the adorable ambulance at the Heartlake City Pet Center. Well, that's pretty nice. You'll also notice that the residents are much taller and thinner than the residents of LEGO City, which is sort of inexplicable when you consider that Heartlake City has a burger joint, cafe, cupcake cafe, frozen yogurt shop, pizzeria, and hot chocolate van. But maybe they're getting all their food from the mobile organic food market. The point here is that residents of Heartlake City like to eat as much as residents of LEGO City like to rob a bank. Not that I'm critiquing Heartlake City here, it is far more realistic. There are homes in Heartlake City. They seem to be your standard suburban single-family house, complete with living room, kitchen, horse, and wishing well. You get the sense that by LEGO City standards, Heartlake City residents are wealthy. They are certainly wealthier than the homeless population of LEGO City, particularly as homeownership is the primary means of wealth accumulation here in the United States. Heartlake City residents also have expensive hobbies, like car racing, horses, recreational vehicles, and the aforementioned eating at restaurants. Stephanie's family even has a lake house. But you can see where they make their money. The residents are very entrepreneurial. Olivia works in robotics, while Emma opened an art studio in a nice turn-of-the-century Main Street building. Residents probably also pay low taxes because they don't have as many municipal services to speak of. Overall, Heartlake City is far more realistic than the constant trash fire that is Lego City. People do live, work, and play in Heartlake City, to echo the motto of like 80% of US cities. But there are other city sets Lego offers in their Lego Creator theme. So let's look at Creator City and see how it stacks up. Now, there are actually two lines of Creator sets. The first line is Creator 3-in-1, which actually contains some of my favorite Lego sets, period. They kind of harken back to a simpler time in Lego history, and they're just a lot of fun to build and play with. They offer small modular buildings, including this, let's see here, this nice little modular skate house and sweet shop. It's pretty nice. My daughter even has this really cute Lego tree house here, which was, totally fun to build and play with. But all in all, you can get some nice houses and businesses in the Lego Creator 3-in-1 line. So kudos to Lego for that. But I really want to focus more on a different creator theme. It's the Creator Expert series. So let's go there. Whereas playability dictated the design of all the previous sets, here I think detail is the driving force. So look at this. Look at the ornamentation on this corner garage here. It's just fantastic. And this is just one of many of these modular building sets. The first modular building, Cafe Corner, was released in 2007, and since then they've released one or two new sets a year. The architectural styles range from exotic revival to streamlined modern, but all are 2 or 3 stories and meant to attach to each other to form a sort of varied streetscape. Now, this video is supposed to be a review of LEGO City sets, and I give this line 5 stars out of 5. These sets clearly promote dense, walkable urbanism. Many of the buildings here are even mixed use, with apartments above retail. The clash of architectural styles may bother some, but cities don't exhibit just one architectural style. The differences imply that the city wasn't built all at once, but instead evolved over a period of time, just like real cities. The mix of uses is great here too. You have restaurants, services, shopping, and municipal uses. I especially love the townhome and the pet shop set. It's a great example of horizontal mixed use. Horizontal mixed use is where there is a mix of uses, but instead of a stacked like residential over retail, it's side by side. Due to zoning and some code issues, horizontal mixed use can actually be easier to build and offers many of the same benefits. Now, that's not to say I don't have a few quibbles with the modular sets. I find that the width of the sidewalks to be too small. If I was collecting these sets, and by that I mean if I had lots and lots of disposable income, I would at least double their width to allow for more room for pedestrians, as well as street furniture and street trees. Most of the street trees included in these sets are pretty pathetic, and the entire street scene would look better with some mature trees. I also found the most recent set, a corner garage, to be really out of place. With such a dense, walkable environment, why would there still be a gas station and a repair shop? There are also relatively few vehicles included in modular sets, so there's really not a big demand for auto services. But all in all, you can't get a better bunch of city LEGO sets than the ones in the Creator Expert modular line. They are fantastic, and I hope LEGO keeps releasing them. So thanks for sticking with me on this whirlwind tour of LEGO City, Heartlake City, and Creator City. I think they all offer an interesting perspective on the modern city. If you're interested in buying these sets and looking for kind of maximum detail and realism, I'd recommend the Creator Expert modular buildings, but they are expensive. So if cost is a concern, you can't go wrong with something from Heartlake City or the Creator 3-in-1 line, or even 1 or 2 of the LEGO City sets. And the way I like to build cities when I was a kid was to buy these sets and then tear them apart and build my own thing. So, maybe just consider these sets to be raw materials for your own creations.
If you've made it this far in the video, you probably like videos about cities. Did you know that you can check out dozens of documentaries and series about cities over at CuriosityStream? When I joined, the first thing I did was search for videos about city planning, and I was excited to find a lot of videos on topics from cities of the future to ancient cities. I did a study abroad in Rome way back when, so I immediately gravitated toward this documentary all about the cool things under Rome, including aqueducts and sewers. I was sucked in pretty much immediately. And if for some reason you have interests outside of cities, CuriosityStream has you covered. There are over 2,400 other titles on the service, including content featuring Stephen Hawking, David Attenborough, Jane Goodall, and more. A CuriosityStream membership is ridiculously cheap, starting at just $2.99 a month. And if you go to CuriosityStream/CityBeautiful, you get unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and nonfiction series. If you enter the promo code CityBeautiful when prompted during the sign-up process, your membership is completely free for the first 30 days, so go check it out.